Hey guys, Dan Trivedi here. Hope you're all well. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. So this video is all about underwriting properties at auction and how I made just over £10,000 by attending an auction and not buying a single thing. So before we get started, if you're interested in my forthcoming videos all about property development, property investment, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and there'll be other videos coming, and I'll try and get at least one out every week. And if you're interested in following what I do on a daily basis, then go ahead and follow me on Instagram. The link is below in the description. Okay, so making £10,000 without buying anything sounds a bit cliche, sounds a bit wealth creation type. Here I'm going to sell you a load of training courses. That's not the case. I'm going to give you a real life example of an auction that I attended in 2018, so this year, and I walked away without buying a property and I made just over £10,000. It sounds great that you're going to walk away with a cheque for £10,000 by underwriting a property and not buying it. But what underwriting also gives you as a property investor or a property developer is an edge when you go to property auctions and you're looking to buy a property and you are bidding against other people in the room. Being the person underwriting that property gives you an edge over everyone else in the room. I'm also going to show you how you should do this and why you should do it, but also the risks involved. Underwriting isn't just a case of just turning up at a property, selecting it at random and walking away with a nice big check. It can go horribly wrong. So it's really important that we go through the detail and you understand all the risks involved. So because this isn't a one-to-one session, I can't make this specific about you and your property journey, so I'm going to try and make it a bit broad brush. So apologies if I'm teaching some people to suck eggs, and a massive apology if I'm teaching some people not enough detail. But I hope either way that you're going to take something away regardless of where you are in terms of the property spectrum. So, first of all, property auction. What is a property auction? Well, it's exactly what it says on the tin. So a property goes to auction and it's sold on a specific day, and people attend the auction, and it's sold to the highest bidder in the room or over the telephone or online. Properties tend to be advertised between 2 and 3 months before the auction to try and drum up interest. And what happens is when you agree to buy the property at auction, the hammer falls and you exchange contracts straight away and you pay your 10% deposit. So it's not a case that you can just pick a property at auction, win the winning bid, and then pull out at a later date. That is a legally binding contract. If you're unsure about where to find property auctions, just go on Google and Google local property auctions in your area. So local property auctions in Essex or local property auctions in Norfolk, wherever you're living. And you should be able to find a list of some local auction companies. And feel free to give them a call and have a conversation with them about underwriting and get their take on it. Not every auction company allows underwriting, but some do. Remember, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an architect, I'm not a planner, I'm not an estate agent, I'm not an FCA regulated person. I'm a property investor, I'm a property developer, and I'm giving you my opinion and my take on certain circumstances and situations, and hopefully you can learn a few things. But if you're ever in doubt, always take legal advice or ask a professional or ask an expert in your local area. Okay, so you're scrolling through the auction adverts and you see a couple of properties that you like. You look at properties that are specific to your circumstances, your strategy in a market that you understand. We're not going to talk about the market too much now because I'm going to do another video about how important getting the marketing correct and understanding your local market and how important that is before you should even consider buying any property. It sounds obvious, you should go and see the property as well. I know it sounds crazy, but the amount of people who underwrite properties without seeing them, they don't understand what the market is doing in that area, and then they end up having to buy those properties. So all the properties in auction, they'll either have a guide price, so 250,000 guide price, or they'll have a guide range, so 250 to 275,000 pound. Now, the guide is an indication of what the reserve price is going to be. The reserve price is what the vendor tells the auction company that they will sell the property at and above. They won't sell it for less than that reserve price. And the guide is normally within a distance of that. The auctioneer wants to sell the property. So the auctioneer will try and get a low reserve price, which equals a low guide range or guide price, which in turn creates more interest. I mean, when the property looks really cheap at auction, Who's not going to go and find out more about that property? Who's not going to go and visit it? We all like a bargain property. So the next thing you do is you pick up the phone to the auction company and you have a conversation with them about this property. What are the circumstances? Who's selling it? How many legal packs have been downloaded? How many people are attending the viewings? What's been the interest? To gather all of the information as much as possible, because this is going to help you understand, one, the ability to underwrite the property and how much you should underwrite it for, backed up by your knowledge of the market and the local area. Okay, so low guides means lots of traffic, but vendors don't want to sell the property too cheap. So this is where underwriting really comes into play. So you've got an auction company trying to get a low reserve so they can drum up the business, and you've got a vendor who wants maximum money for their property, and who doesn't think that their own property is worth more. So underwriting basically gives the vendor a guaranteed sale at a guaranteed price on the day of the auction. So this is where underwriting comes in. This is where you can earn money without buying a property, or have an advantage over other bidders in the room on a property that you do want to buy. So I'm going to give you the example now that the property that I underwrote earlier on in 2018, where I walked away with just over £10,000 without buying the property. So the property in question was a commercial property. It was retail on the ground floor, office on the first floor, small secondary location, previous long-term tenant in there. The company had gone into liquidation, and it fitted within our 4 sectors, and I'll do a video on our 4 sectors of target market, which was secondary location, secondary prime location for retail and commercial. It also had a B1 office above. Now, B1 offices in current legislation means that you can convert it from office to residential under PD. That's permitted development. Again, don't worry too much about the specific detail on what that means. I'm going to do another video about permitted development and commercial to residential conversion shortly. This video is more about the underwriting, so don't worry, that video is coming soon. We know what the property is, we know it fits within our target market, it fits within our strategy of our business, we know what the guide is, we know what the interest has been, we've downloaded the legal pack and we've had a read through it. That if you are not comfortable with reading the legal pack or what is involved and the jargon, there's a lot of legal jargon, then go and speak to a solicitor. Get them to review it for you. It shouldn't cost any more than 100, 150 quid, depending on where you are and who you get to do it. But if you really aren't comfortable with doing it, my advice is get a solicitor to review that legal pack and give you the overview of any details and more importantly, any issues that are on that title of that property. So I've got to post a warning now, guys. Do not underwrite a property that you do not want to buy, that you're not prepared to buy. I've seen it time and time again where people agree to underwrite properties that they think they're just going to sell at auction and make a few quid, and they end up having to buy it for the price that they've agreed to underwrite. That's what underwriting is. You're underwriting to the vendor that you're going to guarantee to buy it. And if no one bids on that property, then you're going to have to buy that property. So be content that you've explored all of the legal paperwork and you are more than happy that that property fits within your strategy and your market. Okay, so this particular property, and I'm just going to post a quick picture of it here so you can see which property I'm talking about. So this property, after a bit of backwards and forwards with the auctioneer who was acting on behalf of the vendor, I agreed to underwrite it for £100,000. And I really wanted to buy it for a maximum of £110,000. Now, I went to the auction of the morning. It was a pretty busy auction. It was completely packed out. I always like to stand at the back of the auction room so I can see what's going on. I can see who's bidding and what their body language is like and who they're with and how they're communicating. So, but that didn't matter at this auction because it was so busy. The seats were all completely filled. Anyway, so the bidding starts, and the bidding sort of starts to stale at 105,000. So that's when I start to raise my hand. And I bid it all the way up to 110,000, and then we quickly get to 115,000. Then it starts to slow down, and it's between me and one other bidder. And we get to 116, we get to 117, 118, 119, and then it gets to 120, and now we're at 120. Now this was my maximum bid, but my price was 110. So just bear with me. Remember, I've agreed to underwrite it at £100,000. I then share 50% of every pound, it makes over the £100,000 with the vendor. So we're at 120. 50% of the 20,000 increase comes back to me. So my net price at the moment, minus the fees, is about 110,000. But the bid is up to 120. So this is really important to know, because I've got an advantage over the person that I'm bidding against, because my net price for this is lower than the bid amount. Anyway, I could see the guy, he was sat next to his partner or his wife or whatever, and I could see they started to look nervous. They were at their limit. And he looked over, and I was standing behind him, and he looked at his partner, and she gave a nod, so they went another 500. So 120, 500. Now, I really like this property. It fitted perfectly in our portfolio. So I was ignoring the underwriting amount for a second and the money that we were going to make. And I went another 500 too. It went going once, going twice, and then bang, they put in another 500. Now, I can't tell the future. I'm not a fortune teller, but I'm pretty sure this was their last bid. So 121, 500. And I then, at that moment in time, it'd gone over the price that I wanted to pay. So I'd got another 500 quid. I wasn't going to go again. So I let the guys have it, and they seemed really pleased, and they won the property. So, you know, I'm disappointed. I've gone to auction, I've gone to buy a couple of properties, haven't won anything, and I've just lost out on this property, which was a nice deal. So you'd think I'd be disappointed, but because I'd agreed to underwrite that property, 28 days later when that property transaction completed, and I got a cheque for £10,750 in the post. So I turned up at the auction with the intention to buy a property, but with an advantage over the rest of the bidders in the room, and I didn't win the property on the day, but I managed to walk away, and I received a cheque for £10,750 28 days later. That's how I made over £10,000 by attending a property auction in 2018 in this market, and made over £10,000 without buying a property. Okay, so let's get into the detail. So you've heard about my example on how I used underwriting and I didn't win a property, but I walked away making a profit. And I've done it, you know, half a dozen times now, 3, maybe 4 times this year. The second point, the second benefit to property auction is really when you go and you're bidding and you're buying. Because like I said earlier on in the video, you're bidding, but for every pound that goes over the underwrite amount, you're only effectively paying 50% if you've agreed a 50-50 deal. That gives you an advantage over anyone else. And property, there's so many things going on in property, so many ways you can get things wrong. But if you can get this right at an auction when you want to buy a property, it just gives you that little bit of a little bit of a step up. We've heard about all the positives, we've heard about all the great things. We need to talk about the negatives, because underwriting is great, but for every one person who gets it right, there's 10 who get it wrong. Remember, people will try and convince you to underwrite bad properties. Properties they don't think are going to sell. That if they can convince you that you're going to underwrite it and it's going to go for 10, 20, 30,000 pounds over that underwriting, you're going to earn a fortune. But remember, the property has to work for you if you bought it. Remember, you must want to buy that property. Don't underwrite rubbish. If you underwrite a property and nobody bids, you have to buy that property for the amount you've underwrote it. And I've seen it. People are underwrote for 100,000, and the auctioneer can't even get a bid for 80,000 in the room. So you've effectively paid 20,000 more than anyone else was going to pay on the day. You have to be really careful. You have to be really astute to what you're buying and what it's worth to you, and what you're going to do with it afterwards. Be prepared to underwrite at the last minute. People put their adverts with auctioneers and they advertise it maybe for 2-3 months before the auction. And if for whatever reason they do not think that underwriting is for them, they want to get all of the profit, they think the property is going to sell, there's nothing wrong with that. They think the property is going to sell for way over what they're guiding it at. But as things progress in the advertising campaign, they tend to get a bit nervous, especially if people aren't downloading the legal pack, especially if people aren't coming along to view it. So be ready to get a call from the auctioneer either the day before the auction or even sometimes the morning of the auction. be prepared to get in there, get the paperwork signed and get a deal done, because that is how most of these good deals, the ones that you want to be buying, happen. But not every company offers underwriting, not every auction company offers underwriting. So speak to your local auctioneers, have a chat with them. If they're not interested in it, that's fine. Don't try and talk them into it. Don't try and convince them to change their process or their terms and conditions. There will be companies out there that will agree to do it. And look at it from the vendor's point of view, that they get a guaranteed price, and that guaranteed price is going to be a price that they want to sell at. And if it goes over than that, then they get some of the benefit. Not all of it, but some of the benefit. But they get a guaranteed price. For me, I underwrite properties, I 100% attend the auction. If I see a property that I really like, but I can't underwrite it, and something comes up that day and I can't attend the auction, well, there's always another property deal. I don't go. Had I have not gone to that property auction that day, that property bidding may have plateaued and stopped at 105,000. We don't know, but it may have. But the vendor, because I underwrote it and I wanted to buy that property, we were able to bid and increase the price, and the vendor earned £110,000 from that property sale. So for me, property underwriting is a great way for everyone to win. So there you have it. That's my video on how to make over £10,000 by attending a property auction without buying a property. I hope you found it insightful. I hope you found it useful. Hit the subscribe button below for more videos about different property sectors that I'm involved in locally in today's market. And follow me on Instagram for daily updates and screenshots and pictures for all of my different projects that are going on. Have a great day.